It's also D-Day for the Special Investigating Unit to submit its final report into the contract between the Health Department and Digital Vibes, a company which has been linked to Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize. Now, Mkhize, who's currently on special leave, is accused of signing off the agreement which saw Digital Vibes allegedly receive 150 million rand to set up media briefings for the minister to communicate on things like the COVID-19 pandemic. The SIU has spent the month conducting the investigation, which will have far-reaching implications for Mkhize and potentially his political career. Let's put all of this in perspective for you now. Bring in our senior politics reporter, Ziyanda Ngcobo. She's with us on the round table. It's always great seeing you on a day like this when there's so much to think about. And perhaps let's start with what's at stake specifically for the man who's said to be at the center of this, Dr. Zweli Mkhize. We're told the president has been waiting for this report to finally do something. We don't know what that something is.
We don't know what that something is, and we don't know the contents of that particular report just yet. But what we do know is that, of course, the special tribunal got a freeze order last week to freeze the assets of Digital Vibes, 22 million rands worth. That's a very significant move because then it tells you then how and where those investigations went. I'm told by sources that, in fact, after then that particular freeze order, sometime late last week and on Monday it is that Dr. Zweli Mkhize was then interviewed by officials from the Special Investigating Unit. So they first needed to collect and gather all the information before then going to the man at the center of it all. What are the implications? Well, ultimately, this could actually see the health minister being removed from his post because we know that the president has been wanting this report. He's wanted it actually to be done expeditiously. The team has been working day and night to conclude this report to find out whether or not then Dr. Zweli Mkhize influenced officials within his department to award these particular communications contracts to Digital Vibes, who are essentially also providing a function that could have been done internally, setting up briefings to communicate COVID-19 updates, really. You know, these are functions that could have been done by the department. What we also know, though, is that Digital Vibes was initially brought on board to communicate the NHI program, and it was meant to be sort of an educational communications program being done by Digital Vibes. But then, of course, the country was rocked by COVID-19, and then they allegedly as well had that contract, the scope of that contract extended to include then communications for COVID-19. So a lot is at stake, and ultimately this could prompt a cabinet reshuffle.
You talk about Digital Vibes getting paid for things that could have been done by the minister's own media communications team. What springs to mind is that they were paid R1 million. I think R1 million is the figure for setting up an SABC event where the minister was updating the nation on COVID-19. In terms of Zweli Mkhize's future politically, I mean, at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, in many ways he was lauded for his handling of the pandemic, his communication strategy around speaking to the nation, keeping us all up to date. There were real sort of feelings about him as a leader, and we know that he's always wanted to, in many ways, run for the presidency of the ANC. Things were looking up for him politically as well. With this SIU report, depending on which way it goes, that's all down the toilet.
It essentially could be all down the toilet, but at the same time, Michelle, we know how ANC politics go. And we know how there's been an attempt to shift away from ANC politics as we've known it. And what I mean by that is, of course, we've seen officials implicated in corruption rising through the ranks into the upper echelons of the government. We've seen, and especially in instances like this, I would say, where a particular politician is deemed to have been victimized because there are some people within the ANC who are saying, no, this is coming directly an onslaught by the president because Dr. Zweli Mkhize would have been a threat for ahead of that 2022 elective Congress. That's neither here nor there because we know that if there is a case for Dr. Zweli Mkhize to answer, he must answer it.
And a criminal case at that.
A criminal case at that. But also we know that the ANC has often struggled to straddle the line between legal processes and morality. They haven't been able to do both at the same time. So You know, the president's been waiting for the SIU report to be concluded before making his move, while others were arguing that he had political morality to remove the minister who is accused of taking money in the middle of a global pandemic, money that was meant to be used to save lives, and he's accused of stealing that money. That was the political morality that was being discussed. So what happens then? I mean, there are varying views. Last night we heard from Snuki Zigalala. He's from the Veterans League. We know that Dr. Zweli Mkhize is yet to present himself before the party's integrity committee, but Zigalala saying that if he has a case to answer, then he should answer. Let's take a listen to what he had to say yesterday.
Well, it depends how is he going to defend himself. And if he can see that the odds are piled up against himself, I think he should just do an honorable thing. But if he feels that he can be able to defend himself against the SIU investigations, then let him do so. But we believe that the president, as you know, that we won these elections on anti-corruption campaign, and so whoever is found wanting, whoever is found to have colluded with corruption must definitely face the consequences, because that's how ordinary people, ordinary South Africans voted for the African National Congress to be in power, and that the African National Congress to govern on their behalf.
One thing is clear, it's a big day for Dr. Zweli Mkhize. It's an equally big day for Cyril Ramaphosa and the ANC, because what they say is certainly going to play into at least public perception at the very least. But Ziyanda Ngcobo, let's thank you for now. We'll speak, no doubt, as the story continues to unfold. Ziyanda Ngcobo is our senior politics reporter.